When we look at world leaders, two titles often appear: President, Prime Minister. These terms describe the highest political office in a country, but they represent very different systems of governance. A president is typically the head of a republic, a country without a monarch. They often serve as both the head of state and the head of government. A prime minister, on the other hand, is usually the head of government in a parliamentary system. This system can exist in a republic, or like in the United Kingdom, a constitutional monarchy. Understanding the distinction between these two roles is crucial for grasping how different countries are run. The core difference lies in their relationship with the legislature, the body that makes laws, such as a parliament or congress. In a presidential system, the president is elected separately from the legislature. This creates a distinct separation of powers between the executive branch, meaning the president and their administration, and the legislative branch. In a parliamentary system, the prime minister is not directly elected by the public. Instead, they are usually the leader of the political party that holds the most seats in the parliament. A president is most commonly the leader of a republic. In this role, they are the head of state, the formal representative of their country on the world stage. This is a ceremonial and symbolic position, welcoming foreign dignitaries, representing the nation at major international events, acting as a symbol of national unity. For example, the President of the United States embodies the American nation. They are the living symbol of the country's sovereignty and its people, a role that carries significant weight and responsibility at home and abroad. They are seen as the face of their nation. In many presidential systems, the president is also the head of government. This gives them executive power to run the country's administration. As chief executive, they oversee government departments and agencies: defense, finance, health. The President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. That gives ultimate authority over military decisions. They can appoint cabinet members, ambassadors, judges. These appointments often require approval from the legislature. This dual role concentrates significant power in one individual. The President's authority is defined and limited by a written constitution. That document sets out separation of powers between the executive, legislative, judicial branches. The legislature, like the US Congress, makes the laws. The President can veto them, sending them back for reconsideration. This creates checks and balances to prevent any one branch becoming too powerful. In the United Kingdom, the head of government is the Prime Minister. Unlike a president who is the head of state, the UK's head of state is the monarch, King Charles III. The monarch's role is largely ceremonial and symbolic. The Prime Minister, in contrast, holds the real political power, day-to-day running of the country, making key policy decisions, overseeing the functions of all government departments. The Prime Minister leads the cabinet, a committee of senior ministers collectively responsible for government policy. This makes the Prime Minister the chief executive of the country. The Prime Minister is not directly elected by the entire country. They are a member of Parliament who leads the party with the most seats. After a general election, the monarch invites that leader to form a government. Power comes from commanding the support of a majority of MPs. The Prime Minister is, in essence, first among equals, guiding the government's agenda through Parliament, turning campaign promises into law. They answer questions in the House of Commons every week, a session known as Prime Minister's Questions, scrutinised by opposition parties and even their own MPs. A direct form of public accountability a president doesn't typically face. Representing the UK internationally, 10 Downing Street, the nerve centre. The powers of a president and a prime minister are structured very differently, leading to distinct forms of accountability. Diagram: separation of powers in the US system versus the fusion of powers in the UK parliamentary system. A president, like the one in the United States, often wields considerable personal executive authority. Commander-in-Chief issues executive orders, can veto legislation. These powers are checked by the other branches of government. Congress can override a presidential veto with a supermajority. The judiciary can declare a president's actions unconstitutional. This system creates a constant tension and negotiation between the president and the legislature, especially when they are controlled by different parties. In contrast, a UK Prime Minister's power is more collective and dependent on their party in Parliament. While a Prime Minister with a large parliamentary majority can seem very powerful, almost like an elective dictator. Their decisions are made in conjunction with the cabinet, and they must maintain the support of their own MPs. A prime minister can be challenged and even removed from power not by the public, but by their own party through a leadership contest. These differences in political systems are not just academic, they have a real impact on the lives of ordinary citizens. In a presidential system like the United States, the separation of powers can sometimes lead to political gridlock. If the president's party does not control Congress, it can be very difficult to pass new laws, approve budgets, make important appointments. This can result in government shutdowns or a slowdown in addressing pressing national issues like healthcare or climate change. For citizens, this can mean that campaign promises are slow to be fulfilled and that the government appears unresponsive to their needs, caught in partisan battles. In the United Kingdom's parliamentary system, the fusion of powers generally allows for more decisive governance, especially when the Prime Minister has a strong majority. The government can implement its agenda and pass laws relatively quickly. This can lead to significant and rapid changes in policy that directly affect citizens, such as reforms to the National Health Service or changes in tax laws. However, this concentration of power also carries risks. A government with a large majority might be able to pass controversial laws with limited opposition, potentially ignoring the concerns of minority groups or those who voted for other parties. The accountability is less about checks and balances and more about the next election. In the UK, the weekly spectacle of Prime Minister's questions provides a regular, public forum for scrutinising the government's actions. Citizens can see their elected representatives challenging the country's leader directly. In a presidential system, accountability is often more formal and less frequent, occurring through committee hearings or periodic elections. The direct, confrontational nature of parliamentary debate is a key feature of the UK system that gives citizens a different sense of connection and oversight over their government's performance on a week-by-week basis.